that she could come back and build her nation, even to make it stronger.
She says, this is marvelous. The more I hear about this wisdom, the more I have to hear it in person. I really have to go and find out if this man is indeed wisdom's child. Think of everything we could learn from him.
How Solomon heard of Sheba is explained in the Quran. In this version of events, Solomon's pet raven has been sent to find a missing hoopoe bird, a prized animal that has become lost in a far-off land. Guided home by the raven, the hoopoe tells Solomon of a distant oasis ruled by a rich and beautiful pagan queen.
Well, at this point, Solomon wonders why someone that beautiful and that rich doesn't know who the real God is, and further, has never come to him to pay tribute. So he sends a letter hung around the hoopoe's neck, who delivers it to Sheba. She then takes it to her council of courtiers and says, what should we do about this?
However the letter actually reached Sheba, it seems clear that the message was an ultimatum.
She decides that Solomon is a fairly dangerous man, and it would be a good idea if she had good relationships with him. But she isn't all that anxious to go meet him and pay tribute and to subjugate herself to him. She tries something else first. She sends fabulous treasures to Jerusalem in hopes that this will in fact buy Solomon off.
Solomon was insulted. God had bestowed upon him something greater than riches, wisdom.
Sheba, on the other hand, knows that whenever there's a war on your own soil, everyone suffers. And she decides, against the counsel of her men, that she should actually go to Jerusalem and deal with this matter herself. It's simply too important to be allowed to degenerate into a border war.
The Bible records that Sheba's servants packed many gifts for Solomon, including gold, precious stones, and spices.
I think you look at the Bible and its account. There's some stuff about the power of Solomon and Sheba admiring his wisdom. But if you just scratch that surface just a little bit, you see the record of a trade agreement and the vast amount of goods that she brings Solomon. And in first listing them, the account does not say their presents. It just says she brings them. So I think there's two things going on. They exchange presents, but at first she is bringing an enormous amount of trade goods and saying, basically, here you are, let's work out a deal.
One of the goods the ancient Sabaean kingdom possessed in abundance was frankincense, a fragrance the Israelites used in their religious ceremonies. Frankincense can still be bought in Yemeni markets today. Harvested from trees that only grow in the southern Arabian Peninsula and parts of East Africa, the ancient Sabaean kingdom would have had a virtual monopoly over it, generating unprecedented wealth. In thanks for their prosperity, the Sabaeans built their god Al-Makka, the largest shrine in all Arabia. It was the center of their universe, because without Al-Makka's blessing of rain, their whole fragile world would collapse. As the excavation progresses, a Bedouin worker makes a dramatic discovery.
Approximately 6 minutes ago, the workman was cleaning up in here, and he came upon, well, as you can see down here, a very large frieze with ibex heads.
No one has seen these carvings for 1,500 years, but they are in superb condition.
This is a real exciting moment. I'm almost at a loss for words. Wow. The ibex is one of the two zoomorphic representations of the deity Al-Makka. He's generally represented here by the bull in the inscriptions and by figurines, but here we have him represented also by the ibex. The importance of the inscription is tremendous also because it mentions a king's name.
Wendell Phillips' expedition in the early 1950s never got past the entrance hall.
After just 4 months of work, this is what they revealed. We don't know what's in the Awam enclosure, the Great Circle, the Ovid, the Holy of Holies. We are mandated to get this sand out of there as fast as possible with the best and the latest scientific methods in a well-mannered, routine scientific way.
With only weeks to conduct their excavations, Marilyn's team have harnessed the latest technology to peer directly beneath millions of tons of sand. Team member Brian Woolman is discovering a temple far bigger than even Wendell Phillips imagined.
50 years ago, when Wendell Phillips first came to the site, archaeologists' tools were rather limited, and you certainly couldn't see beneath the surface. Archaeology involved taking a look at the artifacts that were on the surface or any structures that were above the surface. Today, we're able to use geophysics to pinpoint locations that might be of interest and limit the amount of digging and limit the amount of disturbance and the amount of effort that goes into a site. The ground-penetrating radar work that we do here allows us to map the features underneath the surface in 3 dimensions. So we're able to reconstruct all the structures that are on the site as if all the sand had been taken away.
With data from the survey, the sprawling layout of the Mahram Bilqis can at last be recreated. It reveals over half a dozen man-made structures that still lie untouched beneath the surface. But what purpose these structures serve and what they contain can only be confirmed by old-fashioned digging.
Who knows what we're going to find? You know, we didn't expect to find over here in this trench yesterday this ibex frieze. Who knows what's there?
Although frustratingly close, Sheba and her people remain just beyond reach in their sandy tomb. The tense situation is not helped by the increasing uneasiness of the guards. The team is running out of time. After days of underground scanning, Brian's work has uncovered what is the most significant find yet within the sacred enclosure.
When we were doing our ground-penetrating radar surveys here, we found a very small but very distinctive reflection coming from this location. Some kind of underground void.
There are numerous buildings inside the sanctuary, but this pile of stones represents the most important feature that we can easily understand inside the sanctuary. The structure is a well, and the well here was used for possibly getting the water for ritual ablutions. It's approximately 3 meters below the surface, and we're just about to begin the excavation to try to uncover the wellhead.
This well would have been the very epicenter of the Sabaean Empire, and a place of utmost significance for Sheba herself. It contained the sacred waters of Al-Makka, the water-giving fertility god, whose blessings were vital to the life of Marib.
In this kind of harsh environment, water is everything. It's the most important thing that you can have out here. It may also explain why our sanctuary is located where it is. It's not in the city where most of the people would have easy access to worship at the temple. Rather, it's right in the middle of an ancient field system. I think that stresses the importance of the deity Al-Makka, who controls that fertility of those fields.
"10 kilometers away from the site is an even more potent symbol of how vital water was to the life of Marib. The Great Marib Dam. Described in Arabian folklore as a miracle of engineering, It spanned 3,000 feet, twice the width of Colorado's Hoover Dam. It was built to contain twice-yearly flash floods that struck with a force of 2,000 tons of water and silt per second. A ferocity that brought tragedy to Wendell Phillips's expedition 50 years ago.
The great floods or sails swept down the Wadi Bayhan. 2 of our workmen were drowned in attempting to get across this area.
Surging off the nearby mountains into a catchment area of 10,000 square kilometers, the dam was one of a series whose origins stretch back to 1500 BC. Royal inscriptions on these dams have helped establish the very first chronology of Sabaean rulers.
What we see here is very important. It's a Sabaean inscription. It tells us about the construction of this reservoir, this part of the dam, and for the distributing of the water, the flood, to the south oasis.
As yet, which of these rulers might have been the real Queen of Sheba remains unclear. But maintaining this all-important dam would have been one of the Sabaean queen's most fundamental obligations to her people. The dam harnessed the region's flash floods to create a fertile oasis of 24,000 acres.
And they built at Marib an agricultural scheme that has really not been equal to our day. A single dam that could water enough cropland to feed upwards of 50,000 people, relying strictly on seasonal flash floods. An amazing achievement.
In the Quran, Sheba's homeland was known as the Garden of Two Paradises. The oasis that the Marib Dam created fits its description almost exactly.
It was very important for the ruler to take care of these factors, to take care of the dam, and that means the life of the people, the agriculture, and to secure the trade routes.
This highly sophisticated irrigation network allowed Marib to flourish as a wealthy and important center of trade.
Once that was in place, their living was pretty easy. And it got a lot easier when they realized that on top of that, they had these luxury goods, which the Romans and the Greeks and others further north lusted for. And with their caravans, they could make staggering profits, enough so that the Romans said that basically these were the richest people in the world.
Like the wealthiest cultures of the modern world, Sheba's Marib played host to skyscrapers, astonishing tower houses of mud brick and timber that stretched over 80 feet in the air. Today, Marib lies empty, the consequence of a civil war over a generation ago. Now its only occupants are the occasional Bedouin family who make temporary homes amongst its ruined towers. But at the nearby archaeological site, Brian's underground scan has detected a previously unknown feature linking the city to the temple.
We're standing right on top of the western doorway right now that is perfectly in line with the ancient city of Marib. It's hypothesized that there was some kind of processional way along here that would lead the people from the city to the temple itself. After doing our geophysical surveys out in the western side of the site, we've done a couple of trial investigations and found 3¼ meters below the surface, in 2 of the holes so far, a stone surface that might be the processional walkway.
On important days in the Sabaean calendar, pilgrims and their queen would have walked along this 8-kilometer processional way. Inscriptions